Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's talk about procrastinating. This is a question I get all the time. How do I stop procrastinating? Why am I procrastinating? How do I achieve my goals when all I want to do is procrastinate? And this is a topic that you can find lots of information on, but I'm going to tackle it through the lens of goals and what's worked for me and what has worked for some one-on-one clients that I have worked with. So in this video, I'm going to share likely the 5 reasons, the 5 feelings, the 5 things that are causing you to procrastinate, especially on your goals, and how we're going to overcome those. Number 1 is that you're bored. Are you going after the same goals again and again? How many years has that goal been on your list? Are you trying the same action steps again and again and again? I have been there. I have been so guilty of this where I'm like, well, it's just gonna work and I know this is how to achieve it and I just need to go after it. Sometimes we just procrastinate because we are tired and bored of doing the same thing over and over again. So can we switch it up? And maybe that's switching up the overarching goal. Maybe it's letting it go for a little bit. Maybe it's switching up the whole goal. Maybe it's switching up how you go about achieving that goal. I do truly believe there are 1,000,001 ways to achieve every goal that you want to achieve. So what different action steps can you take in order to go after that goal? Sometimes the best way to get over that hump of procrastinating is just to not being bored and do something exciting, something you're excited about, or something that just makes you happy, something that lights you up. But a lot of times when we are working on the same goal again and again, and sometimes it's not that we don't want to achieve that goal, right? We still have a really important why, and that's why we keep putting that goal year after year. But it doesn't mean that you can't change up the action steps and try something different. Number 2 is that you're overwhelmed. Last week we talked about the mistake of having too many goals. Maybe you have the right number of goals for whatever the time frame is, the year, the quarter, the month, but you are way too overambitious about what you can get done in a given day. And so when you look at your list, you are so overwhelmed that you just don't even start and you just don't even bother. This is me. This is the camp that I tend to fall in, is that I will make these overly ambitious list plans for the day or for the week, and then I get behind or I realize it's actually not feasible and the overwhelm gets me and then I procrastinate and I'm like, well, I'm just not even going to start. So what I have been doing to overcome this, a couple of things, is making sure that I don't overcommit. Number 1 is leaving intentional white space. So when things take longer, because they will, or because I overscheduled earlier in the day, because I will, I still don't get ridiculously behind and I'm able to pick back up and keep going. So leaving that intentional white space. Number 2 is overestimating how long things are going to take. Usually what I will do, if it's something I've never done before, I will likely double whatever the thought that popped into my head. If I'm like, well, this will probably take about an hour, I write down that it's gonna take 2. If it's something that I have done before, but I'm still like, it's slightly different or I'm not feeling completely confident in how long it's gonna take, I'll multiply it by 1.5. I think it's gonna take 30 minutes, I'm gonna give it 45. And then I'll probably round up to an hour, frankly, because I would rather have more space at the end than feel behind and overwhelmed. And I know that that can be frustrating because you're like, yeah, but there's only so many hours in a day and I wanna do all these things. I get it, I've been there. But I know myself and I know that if it's unrealistic and I'm overwhelmed, then I'm not gonna do anything. So I'm better off being realistic and being like, oh, I can only get these 2 things done today, even if I'm overestimating how long they're gonna take, than putting down 4 things, feeling overwhelmed and doing 0. The last idea or tip here is to give yourself some catch-up time. And that could be a half a day, it could be a whole day, it could be a whole week. I know Sarah from Heart Breathings, when she talks about planning out her quarter, she tries to give herself a whole catch-up week that she has at the end of the quarter, or days that she can use throughout the quarter as catch-up days. So instead of scheduling out your entire week or month or quarter to the brim, can you leave yourself like a full chunk of catch-up time at the end of it? Number 3 is that you're frustrated. Maybe it's hard. Maybe you're not seeing progress. Maybe it's something that you know that you can do, but it's gonna take a little bit more oomph to actually get you to do it. I think one of the reasons why we procrastinate is we put the hardest things first. This is something that I learned years ago that just doesn't work for me. I know there is a whole book about eating the frog, and there is a whole mindset to starting with the hardest thing and getting the hardest thing out of the way first. That doesn't work for me. If I start with, I don't even start. If I put the hardest thing first on the list, I won't do it. I will procrastinate and procrastinate and procrastinate and then never do anything. I have to start with the easiest stuff. I have to start with the easy steps, the small steps, in order for me to get that momentum. that will get me through the hard things. I can't start with the hard things. And so maybe that's something you've been struggling with too, where you hear all these people talking about eating the frog and doing the hard thing first. And so you put the hard thing first and then you sit down and you don't want to do it because it's hard and you're frustrated. Put the easy thing first. Just try. Putting one easy step first, letting that momentum get you through the hard stuff. One caveat there also, the definition of hard or easy is completely subjective to every single one of us. There are gonna be things that you think are super hard that I think are easy and I'm gonna put first, and vice versa. There's gonna be things that I think are super hard that you're like, that's really easy, and you would put that one first. So this scenario is not based on anybody else, what anybody else would put first or last. It's for you. What is easy for you, put that first. Number 4 is you're distracted. This one I also struggle with. Maybe it's the people in your house. Maybe it's the clutter in your house. Maybe it's that you're working from home and you're spending 24/7 in the same space. Whatever it is, sometimes we just procrastinate because we're distracted by something else. So if you find yourself procrastinating and maybe you go through the options, right? Maybe you have a checklist and you go through, it's not number 1 or 2 or 3. Maybe it's number 4. Are you distracted by something else? Is it, again, a person in your house? Is it a space? Like sometimes I'm just distracted because my office is a mess. And so instead of coming in and doing the things that are on my planner, I will like do things around the house, or I will sit on the couch and do something else. It's just the space, and I just need to clean up the space, and then I will do the task and stop procrastinating it. Sometimes I just get out of the space, right? If you can, maybe it's go do it somewhere else. And that could be working and going to a coffee shop. It could be going for a walk and exercising in a different space, or thinking about things in a different space, talking on the phone while you're going for a walk. But sometimes just like putting yourself in a different spot, even within your same house. Now, as somebody who lives in a small New York City apartment, that's not always the option, but I do that. Mostly I just bounce between here in my office and sitting on the couch, but sometimes I just need to work in a different spot in my apartment, and it helps me over that procrastination hump because I'm no longer distracted by the space that I'm in. Number 5 is you're unmotivated. And I put this one last because it's probably the one I hear the most when people are like, well, I'm procrastinating because I'm not motivated. And if you've been around, you know how I feel about motivation. Motivation is almost impossible to find just out of thin air, and even harder to maintain. What it comes down to, and you know what I'm gonna say, is momentum. It comes down to momentum. And how do you get momentum? By taking action. And I know that feels like circular. You're like, well, I'm procrastinating because I'm unmotivated, but the only way to get motivated is to build momentum, and the only way to build momentum is to take action, but I'm procrastinating on the action. And that's when we gotta go back to 1 through 4. How are we gonna get over that procrastination hump besides just getting motivated? Because we're not just gonna get motivated and overcome our procrastination that way. It's just not going to happen. We have to take action. And one of the ways I talked about earlier in this video, breaking things down, I actually did a whole video on momentum versus motivation. So if you feel like 1 through 4 is not something that applies to you, I highly encourage you to go back and watch that video, whether you're watching it for the first time or you're watching it again. Momentum is the key to motivation, I promise. All right, that is what I have to share with you on procrastination. I hope that you took something away here. If you still feel like you're struggling procrastinating on your goals, let's talk about working together one-on-one. You may look at the one-on-one program and think, like in 8 weeks, I'm not going to achieve the goal I want to achieve in 8 weeks. And you're right. You're probably not going to achieve whatever goal it is. I've had one person achieve their goal in 8 weeks because most goals can't be achieved in 8 weeks. But what we do in those 8 weeks together is we get started. You break through that procrastination for sure, because we're going to break through it together. You're going to get started. You're going to make progress on that goal. You're going to build the confidence that you need to keep working on that goal past our 8 weeks together. And I'm going to give you all the tools that you need to keep going when it gets hard, because it's going to get hard. So if that is something that's been holding you back, is being like, well, the goal I want to work on, I'm not going to achieve in 8 weeks. Let's talk about it. Share with me in an Instagram DM what that goal is for you, and let's see if one-on-one coaching would be a good fit. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for watching. What you can get done in a given, hold on, let me just try this whole section again. To finish out finishing, really?